Okay, so you just bought an RV, it comes equipped with solar on the roof, and you're like, heck yeah, I can run everything off of that solar. Well, you probably quickly realize that you can't. The solar is pretty much intended to keep the house battery charged, which is usually going to be like a 75 amp hour lead acid battery, your standard deep cycle battery. And then you find out that after you've used about half of that battery, it's not going to work anymore because the voltage drops. So even though you may have solar, and even though you may have a good amount of solar, does not automatically mean, or it doesn't even come close to meaning, that you can run your larger appliances, such as your residential refrigerator, your air conditioning unit, your microwave, or your wall plugs. In that case, you need a much larger solar package that's tied to an inverter, because again, you need the equipment necessary to be able to run a lot of stuff. And most people know that as cool as solar is, it costs a cool dollar to get a big solar package. In most cases, if you want to have enough solar on your RV with the inverting power and everything you need to be able to run your larger appliances, you're going to have to invest about $10,000 into your RV, possibly not even including installation price if you're not going to be doing it yourself. So let's talk about alternatives. Hang tight, I'll be right back. So we got the old Ford here, has a dead battery and the fuel filter came loose, so we had to fix that. But what I want to show you, actually I have something right here that I could show you as well, is the new Firman Generator that the folks at Firman provided me to review and evaluate for you all. This is super cool, and this is the type of generator that you would want if you're going to be RVing. It's an inverter closed frame generator, which essentially means that it's insulated around the outside, so it's super quiet. Also, it's going to provide incredibly clean power, and this one operates on dual fuel, both propane as well as gasoline. And you can have kind of both with you. So if I'm using propane, I run out of propane, and I put 1.8 gallons worth of fuel inside of the 1.8 gallon tank, then I could easily switch over to gasoline, and I could almost double, actually more than double the amount of runtime I have whenever I use gasoline, because gasoline actually runs a little more efficiently with the generator. You get a little less power when you use propane, and you get a little bit longer usage with gasoline. That said, total power output on this thing, starting power is 4,000 watts on gas, and it's going to run at 3,200 watts. So it's going to peak at 4,000 when it starts, and then run at 3,200 watts. On propane, it's going to start at 3,750 watts, and then it's going to drop down to 3,000 watts whenever it's just running. Now keep in mind, one of the reasons why air conditioning units in RVs, such as that one there and such as the Furrion unit I have tucked back there, prefer generator power over like those portable power stations that a lot of people are buying, and the ones that I've reviewed, is because those have a very set cutoff limit of when they're going to shut down if the power spikes too high. And air conditioning units tend to spike pretty high unless you have like the new Furrion Chill Cube, which uses a variable speed motor and ramps up very slowly. But a traditional air conditioning unit like that one right there is going to spike really heavily whenever you first start it up. And most portable power stations can't handle that spike. And because of that, they shut down. Because again, the minute it goes over whatever that surge capability is, it shuts off. Generators don't really work that way. A gas or propane generator gives you the flexibility of kind of taking that spike and still running. Generators are typically a lot more forgiving when it comes to starting RV air conditioning units because it can handle that spike better. It might have to rev up or idle up in order to do it, but in most cases, as long as you have the running wattage on your generator, it can typically handle the startup spike that air conditioning units might throw at it. In some cases it can't, but you definitely want to be sure to try to go a little bit higher than what your air conditioning unit and maybe some of your other things are going to draw. In the case of a unit like this is actually going to be more than enough to power up at least one 15,000 BTU air conditioning unit, a traditional air conditioning unit on an RV, which is really nice. But I also have my other Firman back here. This is the WH3300IE. So this is also a dual fuel generator, but as you can see, this one's 3,300 watt start, 3,000 running on fuel or gasoline, and 3,000 watt start and 2,700 watts running on propane. So this is a little bit less powerful, not a heck of a lot less powerful. It's roughly the same size, and that is a reason in itself where you might want to actually go to this one, because you get more power, same form factor, And you get a few more connections, like a USB connection on this one. You still get the two 120 volt outlets on it, as well as a 30 amp connector, so you can plug your RV directly into it, which is really nice. It has an eco mode as well if you want to drop it down. Maybe you're not using as much power and you just want it to go into a quiet mode so you can still watch your TV, have your refrigerator run, maybe use a blow dryer, but you're not going to be running your AC. And it connects directly to a propane can. So off of your traditional 25-pound propane can, which is the smaller propane can you see on a lot of travel trailers, you'll probably get, I'm just going to guesstimate, between 7 and 9 hours worth of usage. Whenever you mix that with gasoline, or whenever you couple that with gasoline, if you have both fuels and you use one and then you want to use the other one, you can get up to like 14 hours worth of usage on the generator. But just keep in mind that is operating at 25% load, because nobody's going to have everything running, pulling max load off of their generator. But also understand that if you're running at half load, it's probably going to cut that time in half, and you're going to be closer to like 7 hours worth of usage. That said, it's a pretty dang quiet generator. I believe it runs at like 58 decibel, which means that it's going to be within the limits for most national parks, which is also nice. Before we start this thing up, let me talk about what it comes with. First of all, you're going to get all your paperwork, all your instruction manuals, including a quick start guide that is weatherproof, and it's going to be zip tied to the handle. I unintentionally cut that off. You're going to get the propane regulator kit, which allows you to connect to a propane can and go directly into the generator. You're also going to have a 12 volt outlet plug, which plugs in right down here, and that's going to give you the ability to send 12 volts out to something, such as charging a battery or anything else that might need 12 volt output, as long as you don't exceed like 8.5 amps. You're also going to get a little tool bag, because you will have to assemble this back cap, or that top cap, onto this piece. It's just a cover. It has 4 screws that come with it, and then you can also use those to open up this cover on this side. It's 4 screws. Once you've taken those screws out, this cover comes off. Once the cover comes off, it's going to give you access to your quick connect to connect your battery down there for the electric start, as well as adding oil. So that's also where you would change your oil. So this gives you the ability to open up one connection right there. You don't have to try to mess with battery terminals or anything like that. It's a quick connection. You just snap it in place and the battery's connected. And then you can simply unsnap it if you're going to have this in storage. You're not going to be using it, so the battery doesn't have any type of a draw on it over time, any type of parasitic draw whatsoever. Also, you can check your oil again, change your oil in there as well. Again, you have a 1.8 gallon gasoline tank on here, and a lot of the measurements in terms of how long this will last with propane, again, are based on 25-pound propane cans. In my case, I have a 30-pound propane can right here, which will give me a little bit more runtime, of course, over a 25-pound propane tank. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. It is super, super easy. The first thing I'm going to do is hit this button right here, and that essentially turns on the battery so I can work with it. Secondly, I am going to pull my choke out. I have it set for propane right now. I have everything connected, which is super easy. It's a quick connection down here. And then I'm just going to hold this button until it starts. And there you go. It's going to go through this little warm-up cycle. Then you'll hear it ramp up a little bit. Once it ramps up, I can go ahead and put it in eco mode. There we go. It's ramped up. You can see the power output that it's providing in voltage for my plugs. And then I can put it in eco if I want. And it drops the volume down significantly, but it will still ramp up if it detects a larger current coming from power. So that's really nice. And we're just going to quickly demonstrate it. I have my compact DeWalt air compressor right here. We have it plugged into the 120 volt outlet right here, and we're simply going to turn it on with the switch on the side. It's on, absolutely running perfectly. You can see the pressure building up right here. And this thing hasn't even ramped up. So, yep, runs things like this, no problem at all. What's nice about this specific unit is that it gives you the amount of power you need to run most RVs efficiently with one AC. If you have 2 ACs, just keep one of them turned off and you shouldn't have any problem. Plus, give you the ability to run your microwave, a TV, things like that. So it's not going to bog you down to just one appliance. I bet you'd have no problem running your microwave and your AC off of this unit. And it gives you the capacity, plus the fact that it is dual fuel. I love the fact that you have a propane option to this because, again, again, the worst thing you can deal with is a generator that has old fuel that maybe you didn't drain out completely. It gums up and varnishes up the carburetor, and now you have a generator that you can't use until you pull the carburetor out and you go through the process of cleaning it out and getting all of that bad fuel out of it, plus the tank itself. So having dual fuel gives you the option. In my case, what I would typically say is if you need to use this for an emergency, go ahead and put your fuel in here. Use ethanol-free fuel if you can, because that's going to absolutely make it last a little longer. And after you've depleted that fuel, then switch to your propane. That would be the better way of doing it, because what you don't want to do is use propane and then run out of propane, then use the gasoline that's in there, and you don't need it anymore while there's still a quarter tank of gasoline in there, and that gasoline could sit for an unknown amount of time. So again, the best way to utilize this would be to use the gasoline first and then use the propane, and that way would just make more sense overall. At the end of the day though, for me, I'm not going to put gasoline in here unless I absolutely have to, and then of course I will deplete the gasoline first before I connect to the propane tank and use propane. But in my opinion, just carrying around a couple propane cans, keep them full if you're going to be using them, makes more sense. But just be sure if you're going to be carrying around propane at all, you are doing it legally, you are doing it safely, and you are following all the rules in terms of how to transport propane cans so you don't potentially deal with any type of a hazardous situation. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. Big shout out to the folks over at Firman who provided this WH03242 dual fuel generator, inverter generator, from part of their Whisper Quiet series for review and evaluation on the channel. I sure hope you've enjoyed this video. If you want to check this product out yourself, I'll put a link in the description of the video. And if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we will talk to you again very soon.